morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you're tuning in from. Thanks again for joining us for another session here of the .NET Docs Show, which it's 60 minutes of unscripted .NET edutainment, where we have fun and you can engage with us in the conversation. But hopefully, you also learn a thing or two along the way. As your doctors of .NET, we sort of prescribe healthy choices in .NET. I'm your host, Luis, and joining me are my co-hosts, David and Cecil. And today we have a very special guest here, Andres, who is joining us to talk about Xamarin, the technology, but most importantly, he's here to talk to us about what makes Xamarin so special, which is the community. So Andres, would you like to tell us a little bit about yourself?
Yes, sure. As you mentioned, my name is Andres Pineda. Today I'm going to be working about what's behind what we most of us already know, which is Xamarin. We know the framework, all the cool stuff that we can do, but there's a whole engine behind that framework, and it's the community. And today I want to start discussing about all the things that I have seen during my time involved in the community. I am a mobile developer myself. I'm a speaker. Probably that's why the reason I'm here. And I call myself as well open source enthusiast. I like everything around open source. So it's if you feel it's almost the same. It's community. Open source is community, and Xamarin has done very well around what community is. If we have time, probably my name is Andres Pineda, but you have to see an X. If we have time at the end of the show, I might explain to you what the X means on my last name.
Can I ask real quick? That's not like 10x developer? That's like
not at all. I'm a 1.5.
Oh, that's funny.
Yeah.
Cool. Should we jump into the checkup?
Let's do it.
Let's do it.
I need to be sharing my screen. Oh, all the buttons. So today we have a very special idea behind our checkup doc. So normally our theme has been to share content that's been created by us, and that's okay. But what we wanted to focus on this time, since Andreas is bringing this sense of community to our show, being someone who's external to Microsoft and talking about Xamarin specifically, we felt it would be most appropriate to actually share the contributing Markdown guidance here for the Xamarin docs themselves. So I just got a Teams communication from Dave Britch, who owns the Xamarin docs, and we kind of were going back and forth a bit. But we wanted to highlight this specifically just so that community people, external to Microsoft, know how to actually contribute to the docs. And it's a fairly straightforward process. So if you're unfamiliar with the Xamarin docs, it's docs.microsoft.com /Xamarin. And it's a beautiful docs platform, if I do say so myself.
Yep.
It's pretty well put together. There's a bit of, just very simple HTML, and it leads you through this journey, this customer journey of, consuming and using Xamarin. And all of our docs are basically built from Markdown. So the Markdown files are our source input, and then they're basically compiled into HTML. They run through a processor, and then they're served up statically. So it makes it pretty quick. So the contributor guidance here actually talks about some of the best practices on how to, first of all, there's a contributor license agreement you have to sign off on, which is very common with all the .NET or Microsoft contribution things. But then it just talks about how to do, various contributing. There's small changes and edits, which are, accessible through an edit button right on the website itself. But if you're looking for something that's like introducing new content or a full, article or even a series of things, we welcome that too. In fact, we love that. It's great to collaborate with the community in that regard. But then you just follow the standard GitHub process where you issue a pull request, and we'll review it, and we'll interact and go back and forth. And eventually your contributions will become live. And this guidance is available to everyone. And we hope that this empowers you to start doing a little bit, helping out in that regard. One other thing I did want to call attention to is there's actually a docs authoring pack. Let me pull that up real quick. So Microsoft also maintains a Visual Studio Code extension, and it's called VS Code Docs authoring, and it's under Microsoft here. And what this does is it basically lights up your Visual Studio Code instance with some specific markdown syntax that our docfx engine uses to compile your markdown into HTML. And once you have this extension, you'll get an Alt-M menu, which will bring up some specific functionality. And it's basically a productivity powerhouse. Like you can do a lot of content development pretty quickly and have a much better understanding of how some of this stuff kind of works. So this is, again, just the checkup doc. We hope that you feel empowered to contribute to not only Xamarin but Docs all up. And I think
I got to admit, moving in the same direction that you're talking. Me myself, the first time I contributed to the docs, it was like there's a typo, and I just click on the view source, edit. You were able to, right from the browser, to create a contribution without having to deal with a pull request. Everything was done because GitHub is very straightforward for that. And as you mentioned, the docs are already on top of GitHub. So don't be afraid. If you're reading the documentation and you feel that there's a typo, there's something that is misleading some information, because remember, we're humans.
Exactly, absolutely.
By humans, and so we humans, we can do mistakes. So fix it, and I know that any change that you do is going to be approved, and then we as a community can keep our documentation clean and sane.
Absolutely. Let's jump right into the hallway track. So the hallway track is basically, it's 45 minutes. This is the meat of the entire conversation, and it's a pseudo open circle. Imagine like an actual hallway track at a developer conference. If you're walking by, you're essentially like the viewers of the show right now. Feel free to smash that chat button and ask questions, and we'll just have a kind of informal conversation with Andres about his experiences, and we'll take it from there. Awesome. I'm going to add your screen back there.
And you mentioned something. They say how it tracks is that's what we're missing. I mean, for conferences, 2020, we all know we have been it's been horrendous in terms of community and conferences, and communities out there have done a really great job keeping people together by doing online conference like this one, for example. But those conversations in the hallway, I'm missing those.
Yeah,
definitely, I'm missing those. And so let's start. So Xamarin, the community behind the framework. Xamarin, we know Xamarin, right? We know Xamarin. Xamarin is an open source framework that you can create cross-platform applications using C#. And well, it's a little bit more than a framework because it also provides you with a tooling that you can use either C# or F# to create applications that can target iOS and Android, UWP, macOS, and all the platforms, so on, right? So but how does Xamarin work? So, well, Xamarin, just a little introduction. So if you're coming now, you haven't heard about Xamarin, you might be under a rock, but probably. But just in case, I'm gonna give you the introduction of what Xamarin is and how it works. So Xamarin have two versions. That is what it's called right now, Xamarin Classic, which was the original Xamarin, is where you create native UI. Like when I say native, it's using native technology for creating UI, but you share the business logic behind that application. So let's say that for Android, you're working with XAMLs, with the Android design tools, and with iOS, you use the iOS design tools, and then use C# underneath, so you can share the logic behind, but the UI is going to be different for each one. That's what we know as Xamarin Classic. Xamarin Forms, on the other hand, is like another layer on top of Xamarin, where you use a third party language, which is XAML. Actually, it's a Microsoft language, and 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 it will create the UI for you, so you don't have to deal with the Android thing and iOS thing. The thing that you will be just focused on creating one single experience, and for that we can get the iOS and Android and all the other platforms that I mentioned before. That's how it's done, and bindings, and so there's a lot of work put in to make this work, both in the classic and also in Xamarin Forms. Well, Xamarin, the company, was founded in 2011 by Miguel de Casa and Nat Freeman and Joseph Gill. I believe those names sounds to you. And it was acquired by Microsoft in 2016 and open source exactly the same year by Microsoft. So it was like a Microsoft acquire, and a couple of months later, they decided to open source it. Before Microsoft acquiring Xamarin, it was business model was about subscriptions. If you ask me, at the time, me myself coming from a place in Dominican Republic was expensive for me as a sole developer, but that didn't impede me. That didn't stop me from trying to learn, understand what was the technology behind Xamarin, and also because of Xamarin since the very beginning, they were very open to allow communities and people to try and use their product. So if you Xamarin, like back in the days, there was an email address, hello@xamarin.com, that you can literally say, I don't have any money, but I want to try. And they will send you a trial key. And then 30 days later, say, oh, I run out of trial time, but I want to still keep using it. And they will provide you with more time to try. So since the beginning, Xamarin showed that allowing people from even with the no many resources, economically talking, to use their product.
That's cool. So we talked about like classic and forms and like the evolution of where Xamarin has come from. We did have a question I wanted to get to real quick.
Yep.
OG says, total knob here, but will Xamarin be dead when you can develop mobile apps with Blazor? And I think this is kind of an interesting question because, you know, Blazor is one of the new hotnesses out there. It's one of those new buzz terms that everyone's excited about. But at the end of the day, it's still just a web application, right? Or are they talking about potentially
it is native. So first I know is Blazor. Blazor is just another syntax on top of Xamarin, because at the end, Blazor used Xamarin to create the final product. What happens is that instead of you using XAML, Microsoft is providing you the way to use the web Blazor, the web Razor syntax. So if you are a web developer, it makes more sense for you to use Blazor for mobile apps than learning XAML and creating applications for mobile apps.
So it's really the difference. I mean, you still get C# regardless, but the difference would be whether or not you prefer the XAML or the Razor view engine.
Or the Razor, exactly. And,
okay.
And it's just about preferences, and that's why I don't believe it's gonna die, because as I mentioned before, and that's why I love to do the clarification. Xamarin itself is the whole engine that translated C# into the mobile to the mobile world, to iOS and Android. Xamarin Forms, in the other hand, is the UI layer that live on top of Xamarin to use XAML to create the UI required for the application. So in this case, Razor for mobile is just using the Razor syntax on top of what Xamarin is.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, and I think when you look at it from, if you look at it from like a historical perspective, right? It's really just talking about options. You know what I mean? Like, what is the thing that I am comfortable working with, and what's the thing that I'm strong in working with?
Yeah, that's what it is. It's about options.
Yeah. What about React Native? We got a question here too. Is Microsoft moving to React Native? Question mark.
So, you know, in the community, I hear there are internal tools that Microsoft uses that are built in React Native, and people say, "Oh, if Xamarin is a Microsoft product, why they don't use Xamarin for everything. Just people need to understand that Microsoft is a huge company, and there are many teams, and each team is gonna use what's best for each one for themselves. So we cannot believe that even though Microsoft internally even though Microsoft is the owner of Xamarin, all the internal tools or the Stona is gonna be built with Xamarin. So it's like internally Microsoft uses Python, and we could use C# probably for those things. Just the centralized groups, they use what's best for the job.
Absolutely. One language to rule them all, though. That's a very compelling slide. That's like C# laying down the gambit. Boom.
and exactly, and that's how it was for me. I heard for the first time about Xamarin in 2013. A very good friend of mine, he was doing a presentation hosted in Microsoft in Dominican Republic, and I was there as a attendee listening how you can use C# to create Android applications. For me, it was huge. Me coming from at that moment, I was already creating mobile applications using like native languages like Objective-C for iOS and Java for Android. And the idea of having one single language and one single tool set to create application for both at the same time, I said, yes, I'm in. I'm in. And I remember that I left the presentation and I went home. I did that. There was a Xamarin, you downloaded a source code and you run it and they give you a t-shirt, and I run it and I got my t-shirt and some monkeys. Oh my God, I forgot to bring the monkeys. Oh, supposed to bring the monkeys. It's a Xamarin. Do you know, by the way, that today it's just a big coincidence. It's Monkey Day, unofficial.
But it is Monkey Day?
It's Monkey Day today. It's a big coincidence.
Really?
Yes.
That's awesome.
Are you serious? That's a real thing? I'm gonna look it up right now.
Don't Google it though. I heard Google's down. No,
It's back up. So
Dang it.
It is Monkey Day.
today's Monkey Day. So there was supposed to be a lot of monkeys here. Oh my God. And I have plenty of them. The other day I was preparing the conference, and I said I took it from my daughters because they used to have it in their rooms, and I need it for my conferences. I didn't prepare it. Back on me. So I went home, I started playing with the code, I got my t-shirt, and I said, oh, I love this. Just to put you on perspective, even though I was using Java and Objective-C, I had been a C# developer since 2004.
Oh, wow.
That means that it's been like 7 years that experience that I have with C# and the whole .NET ecosystems. I say, I'm sold with this. I like Visual Studio. I like playing with, by then there was no Nougat, but then eventually we got the Nougat and the whole C# community. So I started learning on my own about everything about Xamarin and so on. But it was not up to 2015 that me and Claudio Sanchez in Dominican Republic, we decided to create the first Xamarin community back there. So Mobilevonet was a community that we created, that we talk about mobile technology. Initially, it was about everything about mobile, and then we decided to focus on mobile for .NET. That's why succinctly that name was changed to Mobilevonet, because we were talking mostly about Xamarin, because that's what we were more passionate about. With the support of the company that I used to work by then, it was Microsoft Consulting. We used to do at least one meetup a month. So initially it was me and Claudio talking in every presentation, but then we saw how more people were getting involved in the community. More people were standing and talking about their experience with the framework, their problems. There was a lot of problems. We're not gonna lie, but we were as a community going over those problems as well. So that was 2015. At the end of 2016, I moved to Canada. I moved to Montreal, and the first thing I did, I arrived here on a Friday, And on Monday morning, I checked for a meetup, a Xamarin meetup around, and it was a coincidence that the meetup was had been founded like a couple of months before, probably less than 2 months. So I contact the organizer, Christian Habini, I think is the last name. Sorry if I'm pronouncing it wrong. And I get in contact with him and say, oh, Christian, I come from DR, I got experience with communities, and I would like to help. And I got to say that getting an answer from him back, and then later being able to participate in the Montreal Mobile.net developers community, it was huge for me. I was moving from my country, the country I lived all my life, to a new country, new language, new culture. So it was shocking. Everything for me was new. But being around developers talking about the same I was doing back in DR, that was good. And that was amazing. And how we did it. So Xamarin, the company, they used to support a lot communities, supporting like in meetups if we need a sponsorship, supporting in for special events. You remember I mentioned about Hello Xamarin, so you could get some more trials, swags. We developers, we love swags. We love t-shirts. We love the monkeys. That's why Xamarin developers, they all have the C# t-shirt, because they just run the sample code and they send you the t-shirt. And there was a trick that I learned later, that you can run it again and you can get the monkey. So you can get the t-shirt and the monkey.
That's yeah, I remember I did the shirt because it was the only like C# shirt at its time. I didn't see any other C#. Now there's other C# shirts that are out there, but I think that's, first of all, that's an amazing story, by the way. I love your story. That's so great. And I think it really exemplifies the developer community so well, because, going to a new area, a new country, and then just being welcomed in and feeling a part of something like that. And I think that's what is so awesome about our developer community. We did have a question I wanted to get to really, really quick. Andre says, will it ever be able to do Xamarin development with VS Code? I don't know if you have any experience with it. I have not tried that, so I don't know the answer.
So probably yes. The VS Code is the best thing that we have had in years, and it's driven by the community, and the community is doing everything is possible so we can get a very good experience in creating Xamarin applications from VS Code. We have the things that we need to work right now is a way to because remember, we're working with the Android and iOS application, so we need to hook the VS Code to the simulators that are part of iOS and emulators that are part of Android. But the work is in place, and I do believe that at some point we will get full support of mobile applications using VS Code. Yeah.
That's awesome. And I think, going back to the whole mountain that I will die on, is that it's community based, right? It's all open source. So yep. Visual Studio Code, to your point, I agree, is one of the best things in years. It's amazing. I actually lost myself looking through the code base because it is so huge. I was like trying to contribute one little thing that I found that it was like a nuance where like in the command palette, like the little drop down quick menu item extends past the drop down. So I wanted to make it an ellipsis. It already does the ellipsis, but it doesn't give you a title like hovering over it. So if you have duplicate entries like that are changed only at the end of the string, like I wanted to fix that one little thing, and I couldn't even find where to do it because the source code is huge, but it's open source and you can do those things nowadays. So it's kind of awesome.
Yeah, if we look back at what Visual Studio Code was 2 years ago, 1 year ago, and it's completely different. It's just another thing. And I follow a lot of communities around because like Python community, JavaScript community, and you see conferences, and all of them are using Visual Studio Code as their main editor. And that's huge. I mean, getting one editor to be in all different communities and everyone loving it, it takes a lot of work, and the community behind Visual Studio Code has done what is required, what's necessary in order to be there what it is right now. Me myself, I use Visual Studio Code for everything. I use Visual Studio Code even for taking notes. I just take notes. I have two sessions. That's something I learned recently, a friend of mine. So I have the Insider, and I have the regular one. So in the Insider, I take notes, and I have different colors. Oh, that's something. Jump. I don't know if you use the Jump Papa extension that you can change the color.
That Peacock? Is that what you're talking about?
Yeah, Peacock. Yep.
Yeah, Peacock. So you can have 10 instances of Visual Studio Code open, and you just by the color, you can differentiate which one it is based on the color that you apply. That's
absolutely
amazing.
I love that. Yeah,
that's amazing.
Yeah, that's one of those extensions that you never know you need it until you use it, and you're like, oh yeah, I always have like 4 or 5 different versions, and I'm like, which one is this again? Like, what code is in this?
and it's beautiful too. I just love the beauty and simplicity of VS Code and the theming.
And it is fast. Every time I need to, if there's a search code that is huge, I just open Visual Studio Code and I search to go through the files, and the searching and the index for searching files and classes and stuff is really fast.
Yeah, they do an amazing job on that, and it almost makes you forget that the foundation of VS Code is still technically Electron.
Yep.
Right. And I know other people have, their own comments about other Electron apps that we have in the ecosystem. But when you run VS Code, it is like you said, it's fast, it's responsive, it works well. And there's so many extensions in the community that makes it so like you could just make it your own,
Yeah. And that's why people is asking that question. I understand the question, because it would be great if you can just use Visual Studio Code to use Xamarin and create applications, because I love Visual Studio, the big guy, but Visual Studio has in some cases you don't want to bring the big guy to do a small task. You just by using Visual Studio Code, your development cycle could be even sometimes, depending on the task, could be a bit faster.
I think for me, one of the bigger selling points there, or that really would be interesting to do Xamarin development in VS Code, is being able to do it in Linux. I mean, I guess you could use MonoDevelop or something like that for Xamarin, right, on Linux. But I think VS Code and having that standard, whether you're working on a Windows machine or you're working on Linux or Mac machine, you get that sort of same experience.
Yeah, because talking about experience, that's a very good one, because you have Visual Studio and you have Visual Studio for Mac. Even though Microsoft has been doing a good job getting Visual Studio for Mac to the level of Visual Studio, there are two different experiences. I mean, I've been using Visual Studio for Mac for a couple of years now, and I've been using Visual Studio for Windows recently, and I feel lost because they're not the same. The user experience is not the same. The options are not the same. You won't find the same options, and if you find them, they will be in a different place. So moving from one machine, Windows, to Mac or Linux, for instance, you have to change your mindset because of the tooling that you're using.
I'd love to get your official feedback to some of the product people who manage these tools to share that experience, because I think the goal is to have it be a little bit more unified so that you can transition from one to the other without that friction point. So that's really interesting. And I've heard it actually going the other way around, where people from Windows machines go to the Mac and they're like, oh, there's a limited subset of things and it's different and it's clunky. But I haven't heard it the other way around. So that's really interesting.
Yep. Yeah. Because I moved to Mac almost initially when I started doing Xamarin, just because it was easier to have everything in one single place. Because for Windows, you needed a Mac machine to connect, and then at the end, you needed 2 computers. And since I was traveling a lot because of conferences and stuff, I decided to go and use just one single computer, Mac, and I can build everything from there. And I can say Visual Studio for Mac, it does its job. But if you compare with Visual Studio for Windows, it lacks in some features.
It's interesting. And, so it seems as though VS Code is somewhat the glue betwixt these things. And now even, code spaces in the cloud. And we actually did have another question here. So is there any real support for CS Proj and SLN for VS Code? I'm not certain of it. Cam did mention that he thinks there's, with extensions. Are you guys familiar with that?
Yeah, I guess I would say when you mean support, I mean you can build them. You know what I mean? Like if that's what you're talking about. If you're talking about looking at the CS proj file, and for folks that don't know, the CS proj file is really just a MS build file, like a convenient MS build file that specifies how to build your app, right? And so yeah, you could build it, use or what's that thing called? OmniSharp, recognize it and enable things like autocomplete and like those types of things. But other than that, if you're talking about the structure, like a solution explorer type experience, when you talk about like I have multiple projects and like the right click set a start project and those types of things, that's not a VS Code thing today, as far as I know. Like I don't even know of an extension that does it, but if that's something that people want, that's good feedback for sure. And then we could make sure that gets someone hears about it and wants to set that up.
Yeah, that's interesting. I do know that like the .NET SDK, like the CLI, right, has support for, like you mentioned, building things and whatnot. So I don't know if there's an interface though from VS Code. Yeah, that's a good question.
And it's because of the way VS Code was thought. It's more about workspace. So everything that it is in the directory that you're in is practically your workspace. And that's why Cecile was mentioned. You can open the directory that is a solution and you can build. That's how .NET Core works. .NET Core folks has been doing that since ever. But the double click open a solution on VS Code, I haven't seen that. I read on the comments that there's a extension, and that I believe for Visual Studio Code there's an extension for everything.
Yeah.
Awesome.
So we continue with the support, and we continue with the communities, Xamarin, and the support they were given to all the communities. As I mentioned, I moved from DR, I came to Montreal, and the support was exactly the same. I just needed to contact Jamie Singleton was by then the person in charge with the communities. Hey, Jamie, we have a conference. We would like to get swaggers for the people. We get some, I don't know, for pizza, soda. It was not only that, but also with we need documentation to talk about this, and they send us the slides that internal Xamarin people use for their conferences, and that was amazing, because instead of us focusing on creating really nice, good-looking slides for our presentation, Xamarin was providing even that to us, and the support paid off as we see many more communities around the world talking about Xamarin, more developers. By then, there was something called Xamarin Components that before using NuGet, it was a way for Xamarin developers to share functionality across 2 different platforms. And there was a component store, and you will see the number of components coming every day because if more people were involved into Xamarin, and those components were the response of, I'm using your software and I don't have this and I need it, so I'm gonna create it and I'm gonna post it there so all the developers can use it elsewhere.
Yeah, I remember those components.
Yeah,
as you're thinking about it. And I remember like they had a really nice like dev page.
Yep.
Like, so you think about when we go to NuGet today and we see like there's the install instructions and the dependencies and whatnot. And I remember those components used to even have samples in the page.
Yep.
So even as you're going through, I want like this component, that component, or this library or that library, like there's sample in the page, and there was so much more rich information. Like I kind of wish NuGet had some of that, to be honest with you, because I can imagine how much it'll help a lot of developers today.
We have another question here real quick I wanted to get to, and Rebel Programmer is asking if Xamarin's got faster performance than React Native or Flutter.
I haven't used the other one, so I don't know.
Yeah, well, I've seen applications, but if we see the news of companies removing the React Native platform to go native, and Flutter increases, so I don't have the answer to that. I mean, I use Xamarin for most of my cross-platform applications, and That's why so I'll be biased to talk about how it performs. I haven't done the test myself.
Yeah, someone mentioned in there, they said they believe it's faster than like JS frameworks, and I will second that. Like if you have a web view running JavaScript, that's different than running native on the mobile device itself, and that's what Xamarin does. Xamarin actually compiles down natively, so it's C# compiled down natively to the target device, which gives it,
close to native performance. Yeah.
Yeah. And then we've got someone else asking a question they haven't asked yet. Now I want the same code background David has. Oh, yes. This is actually a screenshot of the .NET Docs source code. So go take a screenshot of that.
Nice.
So remember I mentioned that one key point in 2016 was, let's say, Xamarin open sources. So here we are. Xamarin was open sourcing, and with Xamarin being open source, many things happened. It was incredible the number of issues that were open at the same time, the number of pull requests are coming, and since 2016 until now, it's been incredible. It's because of now Xamarin being open source, we have faster release cycles. We have the feedback between developers and developers, we users, and developers from Xamarin, Microsoft now. It's short, it's faster, because if I try the code, it's easier to try. I don't need to ask for a license. I don't need to, if there's a problem, I don't need to go to Bugzilla to open a bug. I try, it didn't work. I just open an issue and it's there. It's more community involvement, because it's not right now. It's not only by doing presentations. It's now involved in the source code by providing with fixes to known issues or creating whole features. I've seen features that were introduced in Xamarin Forms were driven by the community completely. Like a whole feature. For example, one that comes to my mind is the dictionary merging, the way to merge two different resources dictionary. That was driven by the community. One, Adam Pibble, I remember is the name. And it's part of the Xamarin right now by the community. And that involvement that we saw since the beginning increased way more when the Xamarin source code was available. But we know, unfortunately, not everything can be merged. Not all the code, not all the suggestions can be merged at the same time. There are many, we need to take into consideration the release cycles. We need consideration that there are code that can break current users. So we need to, that's why there's no more Xamarin components, and we can now merge everything. So it gave life to something else that is called Xamarin plugins. So many people in the community started creating plugins as a way to share functionality between the two platforms, and the plugins is just a fancy way of talking about cross-platform library. You can get the native APIs in a cross-platform way. So let's say that you wanted to have access to the camera on iOS and Android. You needed to do it independently in each one of the platform. With a plugin, you can provide the users with a cross-platform way of saying, open the camera, and it will gonna do what it's got to do in each one of the platform. But there were so many, and I believe that it is even unfair that we have gotten so far, and I hadn't mentioned James Montemagno at this moment. So James Montemagno was a Xamarin Microsoft employee. He had most of the plugins out there, and at one point, Microsoft decided to bundle those plugins and create something that right now it is called Xamarin Essentials. So Xamarin Essentials is a set of those device-specific APIs. There were many plugins for each one. So instead of having 100 plugins, now you just install one single library that will have all those plugins inside. It was initial with the James Montemagno plugins, but then many of the plugins were added, and it's also a community-driven thing. Yeah. So Xamarin Essentials is there. If there's another functionality that comes out for that is in Android and iOS, and we don't have it right now in Xamarin, you can just create a plugin or create a pull request to the Xamarin Essentials. If it is approved, your chance is going to be part of the one library that is part of everyone that is doing Xamarin the applications right now. But there's more, because that was the plugins, right? But now there is a new, well, it's not new, it was rebooted. It's Xamarin Community Toolkit. It's a collection of common elements. So we talk about the plugins, but there are elements that are the things that we all the time bring to our applications. Be fair with me and say that every time you create, you have seen yourself that every time you create an application, you bring that DLL of that piece of code that you know that you need to create some type of applications, and that happened. There are certain tools that we knew that we use and that we need to create applications, and that we keep bringing over and over. Some people create an open source project, create a NuGet and post it there, but then you were seeing many different NuGets adding to your as a dependency to your application. So as a community, again, all those NuGets that all Xamarin developers are using because they need it, they are being bundled into what is called Xamarin Community Toolkit. So there we have, for example, if you are working with dialogues, if you're working, so there's an MVVM, minimal MVVM utilities that you can use for your applications, and many other things are being rebooted because this library has been for so long. But it was like post the development, and recently Suarez and I don't remember his name. I will mention later because he's in two Microsoft Xamarin employees like retaking, but it's just giving the guidance to the communities of what is needed and what we are supposed as a community to be including in this library.
I just want to interject here real quick. There's been several questions here, and I've noticed that this show seems to have a lot of people who are new to development. They're learning development, and I think it's probably important to take a step back real quick and talk, high level. Xamarin's this mobile development platform, but what is the future of mobile development? Like, is that where they should be focusing? Like, if you're new to development, does it make sense to study C#? And is mobile devices going to be around for a while? Like, what, what do you think?
Back in 2010, when I decided to move to mobile, to do mobile development, I used to be, as I said, C# developer doing full stack MVC stuff. And I saw a future in mobile. You ask me the same question now, and I still believe mobile has future. Why? Probably it will change the way we create applications in a couple of years, but mobile is going to be there. Each one of us had at least one mobile device, at least one. I have 4 around me, probably 5. And my kids will have, my grandkids probably will have, my brothers, my family, all my parents, they have a mobile device to interact. And it feels way more convenient to use your mobile for many things than just going to a computer and do exactly the same thing. For example, if you need to do a transfer from a bank in your bank, right? Would you rather go into open your laptop, sign in, find your accounts and transfer than just open your phone? If it has Face ID, you don't have to do anything because the Face ID is going to unlock your phone, and it's going to unlock your application. So you are already in your bank account in a couple of seconds in your bank application, and doing the transfer is going to be way faster because everything is there just for that. I mean, applications are meant for productivity. And we developers and companies understand that. So in your mobile application for your bank, they won't be offering you a credit card or things in the page that is to do the transfer, because they understand that you're there to do only one thing, that is a transfer. And that's why I believe mobile applications will live longer, way more than a couple of years. The way we create applications could change because of new ways of doing the applications. But the answer, in short, yes, I would encourage people to do, if that's what you like, to
Right.
go in the mobile track.
Absolutely. Yeah, I was just trying to think of like two obscure apps that I have on my phone that are probably non-typical. One being the Azure portal. So I can like start up VMs from like the flick of a thumb, right? Or like GitHub. I have that on my phone also. So I can do like, PR reviews and stuff like that. So it's crazy. Rather than having a full computer, just use it on your phone.
Yeah, and in a couple of seconds, let's say that for if you like stocks, right, and you follow different, so you can follow different stock tickers, or you can follow one, and you will have all the information in one single page, because that's what the mobile applications tends to, is they tend to give the required information in the most centralized way, in the most cleaner way, because web applications, there are many things that you need to follow. There are ads, there are other things that you don't see in mobile applications.
I want to kind of go back to a point that you made earlier, which is along the lines of that perhaps, mobile apps will be here for quite some time, most likely, but how you build them changes. And I think it's also a point that you kind of touched upon while you were going over the community toolkit and Xamarin Essentials, things like that, that the technology itself is extensible enough that allows for many of these different ways for you to build these apps, right? And also, I think that also helps with the community building, because if somebody has an idea, it's like, hey, I think that this could be better, let me go build and extend what's there already, right? Like that also not only brings new folks who have or share similar ideas, but also drive those sort of new technologies and new or different ways of building these applications.
Yep, totally agree with that. And
yeah, I think mobile apps is one of those, like, I think if we look at like the culture of technology, like there's few things that kind of come along that just fundamentally change the way that we behave. You know what I mean? If you go back as far as thinking about like the car, and people are like, oh man, the car's gonna die, everyone's gonna be driving something else. I'm pretty sure cars aren't going anywhere. Right? You know what I mean? We think about websites and how fundamental websites are to our daily productivity. And people are like, well, websites are gonna die, the web is dead. Well, I'm pretty sure websites aren't going anywhere, right? I feel like mobile is very much in the same way. You know what I mean? It is very rare for me to meet a person that does not have at least one smartphone. It is super rare. I'm not saying it doesn't happen, because everyone's in a different situation, but it is very rare. And then when you think about what that means to have like that type of computing power in everyone's hand, pocket, wrists, like all those types of things, like that's a ridiculous amount of opportunity, not just for businesses, but also developers and people that want to create useful content. You know what I mean? Like there's so many different ways that we could reach out to people, and and if you think about even countries outside of the United States, I know a lot of times we make these comments and we're still very much scoped into what our little box is. But if you think about some countries outside of the US where, or North America, where all of us are right now, some people only have a mobile phone. Some people don't have laptops. Some people don't have these other things. And like, this is how they go to school. This is how they, this is how they go to the bank. Like this is their everything. You know what I mean? And so from that perspective alone, like I think mobile is such a solid bet for, I don't know, man, at least the next 3 decades.
Absolutely. And I'm just going to throw this out there. You can't go wrong with C#.
There you go.
Drop the mic.
C# everywhere is a thing, and now more than ever, where you see C# running in IoT, it's the smallest devices. There's this presentation from Hanselman when he said hacking my body, when he explained how he create all the things with C#. It's amazing. So you can't go wrong with C#.
Yeah. So that being said, Andres, also because we have so many learners, I feel like we have, like Dave said, like we have a lot of new folks here. There's Xamarin Forms, and then there's Xamarin like Xamarin, like
Xamarin Classic.
iOS,
It's usually called Xamarin Classic. Yeah.
Android. Like, if I'm a new person today, where do you think I should start? You know, I just want to build a mobile app, and I want to build a mobile app that runs everywhere. Like, should I start learning about the intricacies of each device, or should I just kind of like start with forms and then kind of evolve from there?
So if you don't have experience with previous mobile, if you don't have previous experience with mobile development, like I don't know, Swift or FTC, Java, and Android, and you just want to learn how to do it with the C# and Xamarin, I would advise you to go directly to Xamarin Forms, because it will abstract the specific things for the platforms. But if you come from any community, let's say that you're a Java developer, you're doing Android, and you want to learn about Xamarin, the best way for you is the one-on-one is doing Xamarin Android, and because you will be doing exactly the same, using the same APIs. The only thing that you're going to be replacing is the language. Instead of Java or Kotlin, now you'll be using C#. But so yeah, see Xamarin Forms for most of the folks out there that haven't done any mobile previously.
Right. And then there was someone in the chat a little bit earlier. I don't remember where the question went, but they were asking about templates. And I remember, in a past life when I used to be like learning Xamarin, one of the things I always used to say is, I want to build a mobile app, but like I can't do the pretty stuff. I can't do the transitions. I'm being honest. I can't do it. Like, it's just this brain. No, it doesn't work that way. I mean, just like building websites, right? Like I can build a website, but I'm not going to make it pretty. So are there any suggested, I don't know, maybe controls or theming tools, or like stuff that I could bring in? Like, is there a bootstrap? You know what I mean? For
Yes.
for
Yes.
Xamarin?
Yes. Answer is yes. Big companies like Syncfusion, Telerik, they provide with already built-in controls that you can just bring in, and you can have beautiful applications out of the box. You just need to do the business logic part of the development. But also, recently, a couple of years ago, there's a movement of developers in the Xamarin community. I'm telling you, this community is amazing, and they did this thing online, like showing that you can build beautiful UI using Xamarin Forms. Because in some part of the community, or even probably outside of the community, it was heard that Xamarin Forms was for doing forms applications, like entry applications, not for something that you need that you wanted to do animations, interactions, like flipping space from one to the other pages and things. And developers around the community show that it is possible by using native Xamarin to create beautiful applications. And later in the presentation, I think I have the link where many developers, Kim Phillips, Javier Suarez, Axami, I don't remember, I forgot his name. Axami is the blog, and they show every week or every time from time to time. Kim also does Twitch, where he guides you through how to do amazing and good-looking applications using Xamarin Forms. So yes, you can get the components from outside, Syncfusion, Telerik. I use something else called Grail, but also you can do it by yourself with the help, because all those things that people did, they posted in the snips. You can get it.
Okay.
So the community make it available for everyone in the community, so they can use it into your application.
That's cool. I mean, there should be a Xamarin. I don't know if there's like a repo for like Xamarin snippets. Is there a thing like that? Like I could
that's snippets. Snippets.
Just search for stuff.
Yeah, snippets. That's the word I was looking for. That's where all the source code for all these ideas and how creating beautiful UIs, they are there in snippets.
Yeah, that's cool.
I did want to share a link here real quick. There's been several questions about Maui, and I know that there's been a lot of confusion about Maui, and there's been some announcements that have been kind of retracted. So initially, Maui was part of the vision of .NET 5. That didn't happen. It's being promised, pseudo-promised, air quotes, for .NET 6. And it's there's a roadmap. It's open source, so I'm going to paste this into the chat. so that people have it. Go check out the .NET/Maui repository. They'll do everything there in the open, all their discussions, the vision of what Maui is going to be, what it promises to deliver, and it's actively being worked on, planned, developed, all that stuff right now. So if you have more questions about Maui specifically, that's where I would encourage you to go.
Yep.
Should we continue with your slides, or what do you?
I just want to talk about. So yeah, big conference. So before Xamarin being acquired, there was a sole conference for Xamarin Evolve. It happened 3 years. I think it was 13, 14, and 16. I would participate in the last one. But then once it was acquired, so there are many big conferences around the world organized for the community and to the community. And this is just a few of them. And I say a few because the one on the corner, Monkey Fest, there are the same Monkey Fest is Spain, Monkey Fest Singapore, Monkey Fest Australia, and then we have conferences in Brazil, conferences in Argentina, Dominican Republic. Recently, I participated in the Monkey Fest US last year, Xamarin Developer. So you see, there's the involvement of the community to talk about Xamarin and to share their knowledge is huge and continues, because it's not only community, it's not only conferences. There's also blog posts. So if you go to Fisher Community blog, if you're brand new in Xamarin, I suggest you to go to the Planet Xamarin. PlanetXamarin.com is a place where they unify all the different blog posts for all the people in the community in one single place. It's a RSS that you can subscribe and you can get it. Or Weekly Xamarin Weekly Xamarin is read from Planet Xamarin as well, but on other places, and you can get those blog posts into your mail. Xamarin Universe, the YouTube Xamarin Developers channel, as well as I wanted to point out here, Stack Overflow top 5 users, and I want people to pay attention to this, and this is when I feel that a community is saying the 5 top Stack Overflow answers, the people that answer questions in Stack Overflow are not Microsoft or Xamarin employees. Well, Jero, now it is, but those points that he didn't get it from being an employee. He's been actively participating, as well as Sushi Hangover and Jason. Those two guys, I say I haven't had the opportunity to meet him, but if I do, and I hope I will, I really want to say thanks for all the things that I have done in First Xamarin in terms of Stack Overflow answering and helping others. Same for Cheeseburger. This is something funny. Cheeseburger, all my life I thought that was a camera. That's not a camera. There's some gun, something for wars. Recently, I read it somewhere that so all these guys have been doing an excellent job in the Stack Overflow. But as I said, go to the Planet Fisher Community blog, and if you are right now, if you're speaking about Xamarin, or if you are blogging about Xamarin, you can do a pull request and make yourself available into that list as well, so people can read about what you're talking about.
Awesome. This has been great. I think we got a few minutes here. So are there any closing thoughts for our viewers today? They've seemed very engaged, which is awesome. So I really appreciate you coming on today.
Yeah. So my closing statement basically is just that there's no doubt we have seen, and as I say, the support that Xamarin gave to the community since the very beginning has created this. What we see, many people engaged and really passionate about talking about Xamarin, writing about Xamarin, and Xamarin and now Microsoft, they has been very inclusive into promoting and helping developers around the world, to providing the tools and the guidance. As I say, it's not only giving the pizza and the swagger, but also telling developers what they need to tell, how they need to tell, like organizing the ideas just to make an excellent job. And that's how people have been doing it so far. And that's the reason I feel that developers out there are very passionate about talking in Xamarin events, writing about Xamarin, even calling themselves Sam Boy and Sam Girls. I don't know if you have, there are a couple, and he's called Sam Boy, she's called Sam Girls. There are two of my best friends. They talk about Xamarin, they love Xamarin, and they enjoy doing that because of the whole community thing. And one thing is that I'm aware that Xamarin is not the only community out there that is doing this. There are many others. And just for experience, I can mention that communities like Blazor community that's growing, is engaging. Uno Platform is doing an excellent job into engaging people as well. And UWP and the WinUI, the whole community, those are words, many others as well. In the .NET ecosystem that are doing a good job into allowing people to come in and say, yes, I want to help and I want to participate. So if you're watching this and you want to help, you want to get involved into the community, don't wait more time. Either if you like writing, you like talking, even though if you don't like it, I found myself that there's many things that I didn't like at the beginning just because I didn't know how to, and I have develop the skill set by doing it. For example, talking. I didn't like talking at all. I would never be able to speak. Like if you see me 5 years ago, I said, nah, conference, And remember, alone we can do so little, and together we can do so much. This is
I love it. I love it. I love it. Thank you so much again. We'll have to have you back on because it seems like you have a lot to say, and we enjoyed having you. So thank you. Thank you to all of our viewers.
As a reminder, folks, this is our last show of the year, so we'll be back on January 4th.
All right. Thank you, friends.
Take care. Bye.
Bye.
Take care.
Everyone.